my lovelies. I am Madam Crystal Butterfly, and today, my lovelies, we will once again be diving into the world of the poet with Escape from the Unseen Dungeons. Volume 1, Cry for Mercy by Peter Okonkwo. Now, my lovelies, before we get into these interesting poems, let's learn a little bit about the creative mind who crafted them. The first time I ever encountered Peter's work was when I read his book, Fate in the Dungeon of Doom. When I read the poems in his book, I was not prepared for how much I would be completely blown away by how good the poems were. After reading Escape from the Unseen Dungeon, Volume 1, I am happy to say once again I was surprised by how good the poems this author crafted were. And that's saying something because I already knew he was a very good artist with the pen. I had to know what gave Peter the idea to craft such an amazing book. He told me a lot of things inspired him to write it. He figured that he had numerous sad poems out there, and he asked himself what it would be like to create something dynamic and uplifting. After writing Fate in the Dungeon of Doom, which was a philosophical contemplation of the reality of human fate with destiny, this book also took inspiration from what he has seen, heard, and has been spiritually revealed to him. Seeing that the title of this collection of poems is Volume 1, I wondered if all of Peter's books were connected. His books Ecstasy of the Dead, Fate in the Dungeon of Doom, and Whose Fault, Kismet or Impediment, are all standalone because each book has different themes to communicate. Meanwhile, Escape from the Unseen Dungeons is a series book containing a cry for mercy and will later feature other books in the series. For many, the act of writing a book can be seen as a spiritual experience. So I wondered if this author viewed writing as a spiritual practice. He told me that he doesn't view writing as a spiritual practice, even though he does dive deep into spirituality in his poems. Instead, he sees writing more as an art and a hobby for those who are ready to leave footprints in the sands of time. Okay, my lovelies, as an author, you have to deal with book reviews. Some authors see all reviews as good. Meanwhile, others will go on the war path if you don't care for their book. I was curious about how this author viewed this subject. Peter embraces all reviews, whether they are good or bad. Sure, he loves getting good reviews, but he doesn't get worked up over the bad ones. He accepts not everyone will agree with what he's written. For example, his poetry is the argumentative type, and his works are mostly inclined to arouse debate and questions. While he was in the process of getting the book out to beta readers, 3 atheists rejected the book with the reason being that they don't believe in spirits, God, or anything pertaining to spirituality. A couple of them felt his book was a subtle attempt to convert them to Christianity, which Peter did find amusing, seeing how some people equate spirituality with Christianity only. A Christian can be spiritual, but a spiritual person does not have to be a Christian. So receiving the response he got made him laugh and say, "That's not true, but their opinion is welcome." He's also got responses that told him what he wrote was powerful, and it really spoke to them as the reader. Getting mixed responses to his work for Peter was interesting, and like I said before, he likes to get both good and bad perspectives about what he wrote. The true hard part involving this book for Peter was actually when he was working on the second poem for the book. Whenever he went back over the book after completing this poem, he was just still amazed that he ended up writing such a gut-wrenching poem.
Being spiritual. How exactly did Peter explore that concept in Escape from the Unseen Dungeons?
A Cry for Mercy. The first volume of Escape from the Unseen Dungeons is a spiritual book of poetry that touches on the philosophic and spirituality of human experiences. The book is written from the perception of a narrator whose spirit being has experienced horrific spiritual bondage, telling the tale of how it negatively influenced his physical life. The narrator starts our poetic journey in A Cry for Mercy by pleading for compassion and divine intervention about his soul-destroying experiences in the invisible dungeons. He talked about his obstacles, heartaches, vile nature, pains. At some point, he questioned his fate, asking if he truly has a purpose on earth, or is he a forgotten being? The narrator expressed words of hopelessness and tries to lay blame. His tears in the dungeons were heartfelt, uncomfortable, and dreadful. The narrator pleads for forgiveness as he desperately yearns for freedom from the unseen powers that held him down in captivity. He wrestled with the invisible forces of darkness, of his flesh, stagnation, indiscernible enemies, obstacles, and many more. At some point, these forces nearly overcame him and put him to death in the dungeon. This spiritual book of poetry is written in 3 distinct volumes: A Cry for Mercy, How the Demons Leave, and I Saw the Light, with each section touching deeply into matters that addressed human conditions and other divine subjects. This book can be considered as a resource for the thoughtful examination of lamentations and spiritual obstacles in life. It tells the story of captivity, unbeknownst bondage, and slavery. You will find ghastly dirges to the many incomprehensible things that tie the man down.
My lovelies, make sure you're nice and comfy as I read to you one of the poems from this amazing piece of literature.
Gone are those days when I was held in captive. Gone are those days when I find myself doing what I ought not to do. Gone are those days when demons have control over my life, desires, emotions, thoughts, and decisions. Gone are those days when demons possess every part of my body, for the mighty hand of God has driven me out from the dungeons I was unknowingly captivated in. Gone are those days when I thought my negative behaviors were normal. Gone are those days when my body, soul, and spirit were possessed by evil spirits. Gone are those days when I suffered under the influence of unknown forces that held my fate down, and delays and hindered my destiny from manifesting. Now, the dungeons that held my destiny in captive have been broken. The fetters that bind my fate in shame have been loosened. The force that hides my destiny under the shackles of delays and obstacles have been broken. The force that hindered my fate from reaching its destination has been destroyed. The ropes that tie my destiny in the doom of frustration, rejection, stagnation, sorrow, hatred, obsession have been totally broken. broken. My fate is completely out from the unseen dungeons.
If you wish to hear the rest of this poem and explore more of the poems in this amazing book, then I suggest you grab a copy. Now, before we move on to the butterfly score, I want to share with all of you my thoughts on this particular poem.
Why exactly do I like this poem? Well, I liked all the poems, so what I should be saying is, why did this one resonate with me the most? In life, we all face many obstacles that can be pretty darn overwhelming. But the worst obstacle everyone has to face is themselves. When things are not going right for a person, that person may see that as permission to give up and just waste away. This poem dives into why, when the world seems to be closing in around you, you can still free yourself from the sadness and hardship that has held you prisoner. Because no matter what the negative part of your mind tells you, there is always a path forward to where you want to go in life. In my adult life, there were moments where things got so hard, I asked myself, what on earth am I even doing? I would tell myself that I have pretty much failed in life, or everything I've tried to achieve was a waste, and I'm a dumbass for even making an attempt. In my case, I only broke free from that mindset by basically forcing myself to question those thoughts, which was not easy because my brain was determined to try to blindly prove my negative thoughts right. But in truth, the negative side of my mind was never right. Every time I told myself that the negativity was just trying to tell me the truth and I needed to accept that, I had to force myself to admit that I was just making an excuse not to try to fight for myself. When I did finally free myself from that mindset, it felt good, and I realized that a lot of the setbacks and holdups that I was experiencing came from that negativity. So when this poem speaks about feeling free from the forces holding you back, I instantly reflected on my own battle with internal forces holding me back, which just made me fall in love with this poem.
All right, my lovelies, we have reached the point of the video that terrifies the authors I review. I know, because they told me. It's rating time. So when it comes to Escape from the Unseen Dungeons, Volume 1, Cry for Mercy by Peter Okonkwo, I am giving it the unsurprising score of 5 butterflies out of 5. This book, my lovelies, was simply fantastic. The moment I finished it, I was ready to pick up Volume 2. So I'm telling you right now, you need to go out and get yourself a copy of this book just to treat yourself, because you know you deserve something special. Now, if you have made it to this part of the video, thank you so much. And please give this video a like. Leave me a little comment. And if you have not yet, slap the subscribe button like it owes your money. And don't forget to give that little notification bell a ring. And with that, my lovelies, this video is a wrap. Now if you please come with me as we dance into a